Plus, we are going to talk about the Lionesses making history last night, securing victory over Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout to retain their title as Women's Euro champions. Not nail-biting, though, for my next guest. He's joining me the whole show, commentator Sam Armstrong. Good morning once again to you.
Good morning.
It wasn't nail-biting because you weren't watching it. You wouldn't have watched it. You will not watch it. You don't really get involved with most football unless we're at the big point of a major men's tournament. But you're definitely not interested in women's football. You are not, I mean, I don't think you are the majority now, but you're in a large minority. Does it matter? Not a jot to you. As a proud Brit, a proud Englishman, it was very interesting to hear Chloe Kelly, who scored the decisive penalty last night at Arsenal. Our family's Arsenal, so that she said she was proud to be English. I was really no one's allowed to say that anymore. By the way, we've had a bug in this studio, and again, we're gonna if we suddenly just grab it, we're trying to kill this bug. But do you not feel a sense of, okay, I'm not that bothered about it, but I'm proud? Because like the Olympics, I couldn't give two hoots about the long jump. Yeah. I really couldn't. Yeah. Or the sitting down sports on the horses and the yachts. I'm sorry. I really. But if we do well in the Olympics, I feel a sense of pride, and I'm really proud of those people. Do you not feel anything about the Lionesses winning the Euros back to back?
Julia, this time yesterday...
I'm trying, guys, I'm trying.
This time yesterday, I had my head in my hands. The country was going to the dogs. We had record migration. The economy was in the toilet. Everything was going wrong. But today, I woke up and I knew that we were the women's football champions of Europe, and everything all of a sudden is rosy. The sun's out. There was...
To be fair, it is better weather than yesterday.
I opened my door this morning and there was a chorus of singers heralding my way as I came into the studio this morning. Julia, I didn't watch it. You say I'm not in the majority. Look, I accept that people are getting into women's football a bit more, but the viewing figures alone ought to tell you that
they will be not football. Even no, match like that,
fraction.
It'll be bigger than any other show at that time. It will be up there with men's finals. Look, I accept. I'm sorry, as a woman, you know, I care more about the men's game than the women's game. I would be much more excited by that. But the women's game is on the march. Yeah. They're really impressive. They play good football. Yeah. They play, I mean, I'm not a judge of these things, but you can see the improvement even in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years. It is a good thing, is it not, that women are being celebrated for sporting achievement and not, I don't know, injecting filler into their lips. And I mean, when you look at most of the women who are on screen for most young women to try and emulate, you're the Kardashian characters. I still don't know what they sodding do all day to be billionaires, but, you know, having large bottoms and getting their bits out everywhere. I mean, I'm sorry. And you've got, you know, someone who's married to someone who's an actress, at least these women, they're competing, they're hardcore, they've got the team, the camaraderie, the way they play. I mean, the way they celebrate. You want to be on a night out with these girls. They are proper good fun girls. I'm just saying, I like having these young women as role models for our young women in this country.
Look, I'll give you all of that, and you've seen similar growth in women's cricket, women's football in particular in the last few years, and they're catching up now with women's tennis, which has always been a sport which has enjoyed an outsized support.
And outrageously at Wimbledon, women get paid the same as the men, even though they basically compete for a fraction of the time. But outrageous.
You cannot tell me that it is of a similar scale, importance, significance as the men's game. But I opened the newspapers today. I made the mistake of turning on the BBC, and I wondered what kind of world I'd been living in for the past few weeks, because we have to pretend as a country, supposedly, that we're all massive fans of the women's football game. Okay. Nobody knows who these people are other than once every couple of years in the games.
But that's the same for... No, sorry, the idea that people massively care about, you know, rhythmic dance or ice skating or whatever the Olympics are.
All right,
we don't care about about those sports. We don't watch those sports from one year to the next.
In which case, Julia, I'm prepared to concede that women's football is about as important as men's rhythmic gymnastics. or
I'm going to
get.
I'll take that. I will take that. No, I accept all of your fair points. And at the end of the day, yeah, I do accept that the men's game is, is a different speed, different level. I completely get that. And yes, it would matter more to the country. I get all of that. But it was still enjoyable. That said, is it just also the media, but also a lot of British people, English people probably more, given it was the Lionesses, actually are just yearning for some good news, something that brings the country together. There is a camaraderie, there is a joy, there is a pleasure in sort of, a winning goal. And those moments, and I live in London, in a multicultural area because everywhere is these days, where you hear a goal goes in and you can hear the shouts from everybody in the street that everyone's excited. That we yearn as a nation for that togetherness. We yearn for that unity because there are such divisions and people don't feel that they're sort of, they don't feel they can often be proud of their country. And I say Chloe Kelly saying, I'm proud to be English, proud to be in the city, I'm proud to be English. It resonated with me because I never hear people say that. Certainly not allowed on mainstream telly.
Yes. And look, I would say just generally across the board, maybe, just maybe, this new generation of sports players across the board, and I saw it at Wimbledon with Sinner and Alcaraz, are just a little bit more pleasant than those that came 10 years ago. And with so much getting worse, it is actually nice not to have the prima donnas, the diving, the divisive. And actually, I would say this, I'll concede this one point, the men's football could learn a little bit from the Lionesses about how to conduct themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
As to how
here's something though that's interesting. What's really interesting is this Lionesses team. Remember last time round there was a big whole thing about how all these white blonde women, and there weren't enough ethnic minority players, and they haven't done that. Now, I'm probably the only person who mentioned it, but it's noticeable that they're not doing that anymore. But again, there's no outcry when there's a large number of ethnic minority largely black men playing on the team. So people aren't going, where are all the Asian players on the men's team? It is absolutely fascinating how the different rules change every single time. I just find it so interesting, the things they pick. But at least, look, it's a happy story. The only thing that's bad, well, they're going to get a parade. Of course they shouldn't get bank holiday. We don't need bank holiday. Guys, seriously, the economy is absolutely into the poop with bank holidays. But they're going to have to meet Angela Rayner at Downing Street tomorrow. So, I mean, there are downsides to every silver lining of that. That is the cloud of the silver lining. Let's talk about what Keir Starmer's doing today. He has arrived, just as the Lionesses are getting on their coach to head home after that Euro title defence. Prime Minister has arrived at Prestwick Airport in Scotland. He's going to have a meeting with Donald Trump. They're going to be talking about, we've just been talking to Matthew Bryser about this, they're going to be talking about Gaza, they're going to be talking about trade, they're going to be talking about maybe Ukraine as well. Not focusing, obviously you wouldn't naturally focus on this, but not focusing on issues like immigration and particularly illegal migration. And yet, wouldn't that be a sensible topic for Keir Starmer to talk to the US President about? The US President was elected. A huge part of his election victory last year was about stopping illegal migrations. Was it 10 million plus people arriving in the States? But they don't even know how many. There were so many. There are tens of millions of illegal migrants in the United States. Half the economy of the southwest of America is basically run on illegal migration. But he has closed the borders. And it was very, very simple. You literally close the border. And they are deporting people who have no right to be there, starting with the rapists, the murderers, the thieves, the drug dealers, and the people smugglers. And so we have a massive issue with illegal migration, perhaps not on the same scale, but the impact on our country has been huge. Particularly the impact on our young teenage girls has been bigger than any other. Should the Prime Minister not be asking Donald Trump, instead of telling him how he should treat Israel over Gaza, shouldn't he be asking for some tips on how to control our borders from the US President, who has managed to do that?
Well, you'd hope so, because Donald Trump's approval ratings this week are back over 50%. That's pretty difficult to get in modern politics. More people approving of you than disapproving of you. And the number one reason for the American public's massive support for Donald Trump, which, if I was Keir Starmer and my popularity was tanking as low as it could possibly go, I would want to know how he did it. And the number one reason is he cut the number of illegal crossings into the United States by 93%. 93%. Keir Starmer says he wants to do the same thing. Don't you remember? Smash the gangs. What has the result been? Illegal migration into this country is up by somewhere between a third and a half this year.
It's around the 40% mark, isn't it?
And it is, all the signs show, it is going to hit 100,000 for the first time. Six-figure numbers of people illegally breaking into this country. He said he was going to smash the gangs. What has actually happened? They don't even know how many people have been prosecuted legally. It looks like it's fewer than 0.5% of these people ever face charges. What do the rest get? The rest get bussed into hotels, placed in communities alongside the white working class of this country who, I get it, they don't really care about. And then once they're there...
The black and Asian working class also live with this.
Far too many people, far too many of these migrants immediately get onto further, and I mean further because they've already committed a crime to get here, they get on to committing more crimes. Who are the victims? Local shops. Who are the victims? Local young girls. Who are the victims? Each and every one of us that has to pay more on rent, more for hotels, sees more of our taxes going up and up and up, and enjoys fewer public services on the back of it. It's a disgrace.
It has a direct impact on us, and it's an extraordinary story of Birmingham. They can't resolve the bin strike. 7 months of not having your bins regularly collected, for goodness sake. They're dealing with them. They're basically bankrupt to all intents and purposes. But they're giving out freebies like, cut price tickets to watch Aston Villa, cut price tickets to the local swimming baths, cut price tickets to the cinema, to asylum seekers. Why? Why? I mean, sorry, what planet are you giving those away to people who've entered the country illegally?
But Julia, millions of people in this country are every day at the moment, because of the state of our economy, having to make cutbacks. What are the things they're cutting back? They're cutting back the Netflix. They're saying, look, we don't need Sky TV anymore. They're making those sacrifices.
Well, we know they're not going out to eat. They're not going to the pub.
They're not going to dinner. I'm not saying that these are the toughest things in the world, but for families, they're painful cuts.
I'm sorry. People who've worked very, very hard.
Yes.
They're trying to rent or buying their own home, and they want to have some of the nice things in life. People who work hard and go to work all day have a right to have a few niceties in their lives.
Nobody that is listening to this show, has not had to make one of these cutbacks. And when they read in the newspapers that Kent County Council is paying for the Netflix subscription of illegal migrants, when they read in the newspapers that in London they're subsidising them to go around on e-bicycles, causing havoc, dumping them across the street, when they read about the little jaunts to seaside resorts, these people are getting put on, paid for by the taxes of people who are having to cancel the very same things. It makes people sick to the teeth. There was a deal in this country, which is if you worked hard, you got certain things on the back of it. You got to buy a nice house, you got a couple of cars, you got to go on a couple of holidays, you got your Sky TV, you got to watch your sports. That was the deal that existed in this country for 30, 40, 50 years. And it has been systematically, gradually, but nevertheless relentlessly eroded over the past few years. And who are the chief beneficiaries of it? The very worst people on earth who have broken into this country, done so illegally, having left France, a safe country, and they are laughing all the way back to their 4-star hotels.
Exactly, and France don't want them. Again, we were told that by the Tories we're going to get people out those 4-star hotels when that was first exposed. Baby hotels, a lot of people couldn't even afford themselves, even for a weekend break, and we're paying for it all. But this is the thing: everyone's saying, and we don't know, there's protests outside the Bell Hotel in Epping. Again, that hotel at one point it did have families, asylum seeker families in, and then they closed the hotel down, and then they reopened it, and now it's pretty much all single men. Again, we've had allegations of sexual assault on a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. We know again and again and again, this stuff isn't made up. This isn't conjecture. Cases that have come to court of people who've arrived here as asylum seekers, murder, rape, sexual assault. We hear, these are people who are carrying out these protests in the last few weeks. They're talking about, their daughters being harassed by these men, being scared of their children walking past these hotels. I mean, this is a reality for people. And then, oh no, you're just far right. And we discussed earlier, the police effectively denying it, but there's footage of it, bussing in. They say, the nice protesters, the hope not hate. These are actually far left, full-on Marxist, Antifa kind of level often balaclavaed protesters. If you're wearing a mask or a balaclava at a protest, you're not on the good side. Yeah, you're not on the good side. Unless you're doing it in Hong Kong and the Chinese authorities are going to take down, you're not on the right side of history. It is absolutely extraordinary. And I love the protesters yesterday at Epping refusing to rise to the bait of these people who, by the way, the protesters in Epping, they just printed out, they've got an M&S Union Jack carrier bag and they've just got handmade signs to ripping up a cardboard box. Whereas the protesters who've come, the ones who get bussed in, they've got, these are proper printed socialist work. Wherever socialist worker are, you don't want to be on their side. They're wrong about everything. They're on the wrong side. They are on the side of all of our enemies on every single topic. But they've got all their cleverly printed, it's all done professionally. There's an operation, there's funding behind them, as opposed to ordinary men, women and children who are protesting and want their safety. But it is fascinating. They just started singing at these protesters. They just sang Rule Britannia. They sang wonderfully, Come On Eileen. Yeah. Can you think of? I think they might have gone to Sweet Caroline at some point. Good old British songs. And I just, I applaud these people. Do not rise to the bait. Do not give the lefty commentators. Do not give the government. Do not give the police what they want, because what they want is for you to be riled. What they want is for you to be pushed, abused and pushed, and frustrated into getting violent. Don't give that to them. Stay cool, stay calm. You've got our backing. We support you. You're doing God's work, guys and girls. You are out there. The mums who are there with their kids saying, I want my kids to be safe on the streets. You are doing a job that, for this country, because they're only going to listen when people are on the streets. And I agree with Nigel Farage. This could turn nasty, but we need to all be going out and we need to all be protesting this. The only trouble is, if you take these people out of the hotels, they're going to be put into local accommodation, local hostels, local flats. The reality is they're going to be more of a problem because you're not going to know who they are and where they are. They're not going to be monitored in any way whatsoever. And they're going to be competing, those rents, they're going to be competing with local families. The real solution is that they're all deported. And first of all, actually a better solution would be that they never get here in the first place. Do you have any faith whatsoever that this government under Keir Starmer or the would-be Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, because, my God, she's working hard, isn't she, to get that job, that they would have any ability or willingness to do that? No. And I Julia, I've got to tell you, I agree with Nigel Farage. I think we are at possibly the most dangerous point in my lifetime. And bearing in mind we've got the anniversary of the Southport attacks tomorrow. We're at one of the most dangerous junctures in history that has taken place in my lifetime. What are the people of this country to make when they see their police force, which by law is meant to be impartial, going hard as they possibly can on anybody that raises concerns about migration? They're now setting up some crack unit in London to spy on every single time they post a message on Facebook. Well, let's keep them busy, eh? When they lock up mothers for an intemperate tweet, which was wrong, don't get me wrong, but for 31 months more than people that are caught up in grooming gangs. And then on the other side, they see them bussing in far-left agitators, people who literally wanted communist Russia to invade this country, bussing them in where inevitably they cause problems, in which they speak out against only one side ever, that there is a real danger that millions of people, and I mean millions of people in this country, simply give up believing that the very basic functions of the state, the police, the courts, the government itself, is a legitimate organisation. And I really do fear that we will see scenes like we saw last year, if not worse, if the government, if the police don't do their basic job. And what I'm saying is not, pander to people that are causing problems. I'm just saying act fairly, act neutrally. That is all anyone is asking you to do. I was thinking, from my background, that the fact that I no longer trust any of those institutions to act impartially. And if someone like me has kind of lost that trust, that is, that is a worry. I'm not from a community that's been treated badly. I'm middle class North London girl. I should be. This institution is absolutely on my side. I know that they are not. I know that they are not. None of those institutions. And again, governments, the police, the courts, everything, they can keep doing what they've been doing. It's not going to end well for them. They can keep doing it. just like they kept doing, they kept ignoring our views on immigration, kept ignoring our views on things like Brexit and accountability and all that. You can keep doing that, but eventually we're going to give, you get more and more and more rope. The rope is going to run out. The rope is going to run out. The British people have had enough. And the key thing is, what I really, really, really need is the British people, you've got to stay peaceful, but protest. But crucially also, you've got to use your vote. Don't go, well, they're all the same. They're not going to do. Use your vote. It's that your vote is your biggest tool. So we did in terms of the referendum in 2016. It's what we did in 2019 to get Brexit done. It wasn't ideal. Lots of things happened, lockdown, all of that. Boris Johnson turned out to be an absolute, well, not most of us knew he was a fraud already, but an absolute fraud. But use your vote. Do not extricate yourself from the political system, because we might have to play a longer game like we did from 2016 to 2019, but we will get our way, because the British people will get their way in the end off. Simple as that, because there's no other solution. Otherwise, there won't be a Britain anymore. There will not be a Britain anymore in any meaningful sense.